Hello wonderful nerds, I'm Hass, and while Scott's away I thought I'd take over an episode and talk a little bit about SpiderMan Homecoming. If you know anything about me from my Strip Panel Naked channel, or Panel by Panel magazine, or from Comic-Con or episodes from NerdSync itself, you know I love taking a look at how stories are told through their visuals. And SpiderMan Homecoming had a really interesting take on a traditional big blockbuster look for me. There's been a lot of talk about how Marvel movies all end up looking the same, and actually you do find that a lot with big blockbuster movies generally, but Homecoming does do a couple of nice tricks that you can also find in early Spider-Man comics to give it a bit of an extra added drama. So that's what we're going to dive into this time. Okay, to set the scene, it's worth talking about the so-called orange and teal effect in movies. If you've ever seen more or less any big film made in the past 10 years or so, you'll have some idea of what the orange and teal effect is. It started to rise in popularity after the Coen Brothers film Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which was the first to digitally treat the entire image throughout the whole film, and filmmakers then realised that they had this amazing tool to manipulate the colour of their work after the fact. It's kind of almost like using Photoshop but for an entire film. And it used to be that you'd have to do this all on set. You'd use filters over the lenses with very clever lighting, but with digital shooting and a more robust digital post-production, there was this new flexibility that people found they had. And what did they decide to do with that flexibility? They decided to make everything two colours. Modern blockbuster filmmakers and studios pretty much all decided to do that same thing, which was orange and teal, though I am generalising a little bit, but the reasoning is sound, if maybe a little boring, honestly. So the most common colour in the human skin is orange, and a lot of lights used in films to light the actors is a kind of golden orange. But if you then pull out that orange, you need to find another colour to go with it that works visually, that's going to be pleasing to the eye and not look a bit off kilter. And if you look at a colour wheel, which is a good way to find out, opposite orange you find blue. So then they would pull up the orange of the skin, they'd also turn the background into a blue cast. If you look at the Transformers movies, or the Fast and the Furious franchise, and even here in Spider-Man Homecoming, orange and teal is absolutely everywhere. It's in every scene, in practically every single shot of that film. Even Peter opening his locker is orange and teal. And once you see that, it's kind of hard to unsee it, and you realise just how much it's invaded popular cinema. But the thing is, it's really satisfying. I mean, not if you watch 5 films in a row, but as one-offs, it is actually quite pleasing to the eye. It actually does look nice. Because in basic colour theory, you have 2 ways of finding colours that work together. Either you choose colours that are next to each other on the colour wheel, so orange and red, or you choose colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel, like orange and blue, orange and teal. And you know they'll work together and they'll look satisfying to an audience. That's just how the colours work. It's some kind of mad science that I don't know how to explain. But it does remove any character from the image when you start to make it all look the same as everything else that's out there. You can see the advantage in that it's not going to be off-putting to anyone, but does make everything look a bit bland and repetitive. Okay, Hass, let's talk about Spider-Man. I can hear you. Okay, we're getting there. So there's a notable exception to everything being orange and teal, and it's in Spider-Man's red suit, which is actually really saturated in the film. It pops in so many scenes, and actually on numerous occasions the background ends up getting washed out to allow Spider-Man to pop even more. You can see how in post-production the red has been bumped up a lot in the scenes with that suit. There's actually a moment where Spidey crashes through a backyard party and he slams into the water of the pool and the water goes everywhere. But in that scene, in that shot, you can see the red trunks of people and red cups, and you can see that they're also really bright and really saturated. And that gives you an idea that they've just boosted the reds in post-production. But apart from 1 or 2 moments, and they really are only 1 or 2 moments, Spider-Man's suit is the only red thing in the scene. It's allowed to stand alone. It helps give the sense that this is someone extraordinary. This is a colour we don't really get to see anywhere else in the world. But it also ties in back nicely to his comic book origins. Back in the days of the big bright pulpy colours of the CMYK printing press, before it was really refined, you had those big bright colours. It's why you see odd things with odd colours back in early superhero books, but back then they really took advantage of it. But compared to the world around of the people actually buying those comics, of course they looked brighter, they looked bolder, whereas the world may have looked drab in comparison. That was the point. They were larger than life superheroes. And that is one way that Homecoming tries to stand alone. It takes the preconceived orange and teal effect and it throws in something unexpected in the form of this saturated red suit. And I mentioned the colour wheel earlier and how you look for opposite colours to find things that work together well. And if we take red and jump across the wheel, we end up with green. And without getting too much into it, you see this all throughout Spider-Man's villains from the the comic books. So many of them are green. Vulture, originally from the comics, had a green suit. You've got the Green Goblin, Lizard, Mysterio, even Sandman had a green shirt. Those colours work together, but there's a nice subtle touch that they are diametrically opposite on the colour wheel, which speaks nicely also to their natures in the story too. So in Homecoming, we get another colour out of the orange and teal register, and of course, as I've just said, it is green. The Vulture has his scary green eyes, and that is way out of the boundaries of the orange and teal effect. When you see the Vulture in the sky and his green eyes floating, it really pops in this film. There's also a lovely moment later in the film I've just got to mention, where Vulture's out of costume, and he finds out a bit of key information while he's sat in a car, and he's sat at a stoplight. And almost like a light bulb, the stoplight pops and changes to green and casts directly onto his face when he realizes, symbolizing that link to green as the Vulture, to green as evil and bad. It's a smart visual decision enforced throughout the film. By limiting the palette so drastically for everything else to just that orange and teal, they've really made the moments with Vulture and Spider-Man in costume stand out so much. And you could argue that there's a clever reasoning behind that, to emulate the idea of superheroics in the ordinary world. And there's one other final colour that does this, the purple of the alien technology in the film. Again, it's a new colour and a world where nothing else we see is purple. It glows through material in the film. We see a purple explosion, we see purple gusts of smoke from the weapons being used, and it does look otherworldly. It looks fantastical, it looks different. And that's the strength that a lot of blockbusters, when adopting the orange and teal effect, haven't taken advantage of. Because if I only show you two colours for an entire story, but then suddenly I throw in a very bright, very bold, very deep red, it's going to stand out to you. It's going to make itself known. Variety is the spice of life and all that. And by constraining the visuals to allow a couple of moments to really pop, it gives life to the magical and fantastical elements of Spider-Man Homecoming in a clever way. Next time anyone bemoans the boring use of drab colours in a blockbuster, point them to Spider-Man Homecoming's embracing and adapting of it. Thanks for watching. And thanks for having me on as a guest host this week on NerdSync. If you want to hear more from me, every week I take a dive into visual storytelling in comic books at my channel Strip Panel Naked. Here's an episode about Spider-Man's first comic appearance for you to take a look at. For more analytical looks and writing, I've got a new magazine called Panel by Panel, and you can find that at panelxpanel.com. You can also find me on Twitter for more comics talk and analysis at HassanOE. Until next time, nerds.